Good morning, dear friends. Myself Abdullah Sherikar, working as assistant professor in the Department of Pharmacology, Sri Vileparli Kelavani Mandal Institute of Pharmacy, Dhule. Today I am going to talk about the introduction about the blood. Disclaimer: this video is purely prepared for the educational purpose and there is no any commercial motive behind it. The content and images of this presentation are taken from diverse resources and they are duly acknowledged in the reference section. Learning outcome. After completion of this lecture, students are able to understand the blood homeostasis, concept of blood homeostasis, what are the different properties of the blood, functions of the blood, and the various blood components. Blood homeostasis. The blood play a vital role in the transportation of the oxygen, carbon dioxide, nutrient and hormone in the body and from the body. Second point, it mainly involved in the regulation of the pH and temperature of the body. It also provides the protection against the various diseases by activating the process of phagocytosis, or in certain cases it may start the production of the antibody against the invading microorganisms. And if you see the most of the health care professionals or the healthcare practitioners, they used to examine and analyze the component of the blood by doing certain blood tests. So motive or the aim of behind this doing these various tests is to find out the root cause of the disease. So in this fashion, the transportation of the certain essential element and maintaining the pH and temperature of the body, providing the protection against the diseases, and there are certain blood tests usually done by the healthcare professional in order to find out the root cause of the disease. In these four manner, the blood provide the or the maintain or the regulate the homeostasis of the branch of science concerned with the study of blood and blood forming tissues and the disorders associated with the blood. It is called as the hematology. It is called as the hematology. So any branch that concern or the deals with the study of the blood and blood forming tissues and its associated disorders. So that branch is called as the hematology. Now the second point, so we are moving toward the second point, that is the properties of the different properties of the blood. First, blood is a liquid connective tissue. That is, a blood is a fluid. It is a liquid connective tissue and it is surrounded by a liquid extracellular matrix that is called as the plasma, blood plasma, in which most of the cell and four elements are embedded. Second point, the blood is more thicker or the denser or the viscous than water. And if you see, the texture of the blood is slightly sticky in nature. Third property, the temperature of the blood is 38 degrees Celsius, that is 100.4 Fahrenheit. Basically, if you see, the normal body temperature is the 37 degrees Celsius. Oral or the rectal body temperature is 37 degrees Celsius. So here the blood has 1 degree Celsius temperature 1 degree Celsius is higher than oral and rectal body temperature. And the blood has slightly alkaline pH in the range between the 7.35 to 7.45. Next, if you see the color of the blood basically depend upon the how much of the oxygen is present in the blood. Though saturation with the oxygen determine the color of the blood. If you see when it is saturated with the oxygen, it has bright red color. And on the other hand, when it is unsaturated with the oxygen, that time the color of the blood is dark red or the somewhat dull in nature. So depending upon the content of the oxygen present in the blood, the color of the blood may vary. If it is the oxygen, if the oxygen is present in the blood, then bright red, and if the oxygen is absent, then the color of the blood is dark red or the dull. Now the average volume of blood basically different in the sex. If you see the in case of male, the average blood volume is about 5 to 6 liter, whereas in case of female, it is 4 to 5 liters. So there is a slight difference in the average blood volume in the male and female. It is because of the differences in the size. It is because of the difference in the size. Now there are certain hormones, example aldosterone or the antidiuretic hormone, that is the vasopressin, and atrial natriuretic peptide. They tend to regulate urine water excretion. These three hormones mainly control the how much of the water is to be has to be excreted from the body through urinary system, and on that basis the constant blood volume is regulated, and whereas on the other hand osmotic pressure also is of the body is regulated, and it is done by the negative feedback mechanism. It is a good example of the negative feedback mechanism where there are certain hormones, say example aldosterone, antidiuretic hormone, and atrial natriuretic peptide, that tend to regulate how much of the water is to be eliminated through the urinary system. On that basis, the blood volume as well as the osmotic pressure of the body is regulated. Now the functions, what are the different functions of blood? First function is the transportation. Basically, the blood mainly involved in the transportation of the oxygen from the lungs to the cell. It provides the oxygen to the cell from the lungs after inspiration. Secondly, it eliminate or the transport the carbon dioxide from the body cells to the lungs, so as to it is eliminated from the body into the external environment, that is the exhalation, that is the breathing out. Third point, it also involved in the transportation of the nutrient from the GIT to the body. Whatever we are administrating in the form of nutrient, that has to be transported from the GI to the blood, and this body. And this transportation of the nutrient from the GIT to the body, it is mainly bring about by the blood. Next, certain hormones, say example from certain endocrine glands. These the hormones from the endocrine glands. Different hormones are released by the endocrine glands. So these hormones are mainly transported to the other body cells, and the basic media or the root or the what you can say. The blood is mainly involved in the transportation of the hormones from endocrine glands to the other body cells. And last point is the in the transportation, heat and waste products are mainly eliminated from the body. If you see, in case of blood plasma, it is near about 91.5% of the water, and this water which is present in the blood plasma has absorbing and cooling properties. So whatever the extra heat is generated, that heat is absorbed by the water and it is eliminated through the skin through sweating process. So if you see, in case of summer season, you may feel lot of sweating because the whatever the extra heat generated, that is absorbed by the water which is present in the blood plasma, and that water, the adsorbed heat is mainly eliminated through the is eliminated out of the body through skin by the process of sweating, so that in case of summer season your body temperature is going to be controlled. And second point, whatever the waste products are generated inside the body, that are eliminated through excretory organs, say example kidney, say example your GIT system through bile duct, and through the anus, the waste products are eliminated. Yes. So this is basically, if you see some, if you are summarizing the functions of the blood with respect to transportation, it mainly involved in the transportation of the oxygen from the lungs to the cell. Second, it carries the carbon dioxide from the body cells to the lungs for the breathing out or for the exhalation. Third, it transport the nutrients from the GIT to the body. Second, fourth, that it transport the hormones released by the endocrine gland to the other body cells. And last, that is it also mainly involved in the elimination of the extra heat or the heat and the waste product which are generated inside the body, out of the body, for elimination. Next function, regulation. Basically, if you see the blood mainly involved in the control of the homeostasis of the body, or the control the various physiological process. Already I had discussed through transportation of the oxygen, carbon dioxide or certain elements, maintaining the pH and temperature of the body, isn't it? So in order to find out the certain kind of the diseases, root cause of the certain diseases, the healthcare professional, they used to examine the blood and they used to analyze the blood for the differences in its component. On that basis, the overall the blood is mainly involved in the regulation of the homeostasis of the body. Next, it also involved in the regulation of the pH of the body, mainly control the temperature of the body, and lastly, it mainly regulate the osmotic pressure by maintaining the water content of the regulating the water content of the body. On that basis, the osmotic pressure is controlled or the regulated. Next, third, basically, or the main function of the blood is to provide the protection against injury. When you have any sort of the injury, that time the extra loss of the blood will occur. So in that case, the blood initiate its clotting mechanism and it forms the gel-like structure so that the excessive loss of the blood is prevented. Second, the major blood component of the blood is the WBC, white blood cells. These WBC have major role provide the protection against diseases by activating the phagocytosis process. Next, it also involved in the production of the certain antibodies, interferons, and complement system. And these activated complement system or the generated antibodies and interferon provide the protection against a certain. Now, the next point is the blood component. The whole blood has basically two components. Out of that is the blood plasma. And this blood plasma is the watery liquid extracellular matrix. And this blood plasma contains dissolved substances. And other component of the whole blood is the form elements. And these are nothing but the cells and cell fragments. So basically blood has two components. One is the blood plasma and second one is the form elements. And blood plasma is the watery liquid extracellular matrix in which some certain substances are dissolved. Whereas in case of the four elements, the certain cells and cell fragments are present. If you collect the blood in a test collecting tube, and if you fill it, and if you centrifuge it, so according to the density of the cells, there are certain kind of the cell fragments are separated depending upon their density. So basically those components which are more dense in nature, they are going to be settled down at the bottom of the test tube. Whereas those are less denser, they are tend to present or the sediment upper side of the test tube. So those are more denser, that are called as the form elements, and that comprises 45% of the world. Whereas those are lesser denser or the thinner, that comprises the plasma, which is about the 55%. In case of form elements, in that RBC, red blood cells, have more denser. So they tend to sediment at the bottom of the test tube. So for out of 45% form element, 99% are the RBCs. And the white color, that is colorless buffy coat, that is present in between the plasma and the RBC, that comprises the WBC, that is white blood cells and platelet. And there are the concentration of these platelet and WBC in the blood is the 1%. So if you see, the four elements of the blood are WBC, platelet and RBC. But the RBC are more denser, more thicker than WBC and platelets. And the WBC and platelets are more denser than plasma. If you see the order of density, first plasma is less denser, then WBC and platelets are more denser than plasma, and then RBCs are more denser than WBC and platelets. Now the blood plasma. If you see if you remove the foreign elements from the blood, or blood with no foreign elements, or the blood without foreign elements, that form a straw like a structure or the color like a liquid, and that liquid is called as the blood plasma or the plasma, simply plasma. And in that blood plasma, 91.5% is the water and 8.5% is the solute in the form of plasma proteins. There are three different types of the plasma proteins. One is the albumins, that comprises 54%. Second one is the globulins, that comprises 38%, and fibrinogen, that comprises 7%. All these plasma proteins are basically synthesized by the liver. So if you see the blood component, plasma and four elements. Plasma contains 91.5% water and 8.5% solute. Whereas four elements 99% RBCs and 1% WBCs and platelets. Now the four elements are basically categorized into three types. One is the red blood cells or the RBCs. Second one, white blood cells or the WBCs, that is RBCs and WBCs are whole cells, and third type of the foreign element is the platelet, that is cell fragments. So pay kindly attention here that platelets are cell fragments, whereas RBCs and WBCs are whole cells. Again, WBCs are again further divided into the subcategories, that is the granulocyte and agranulocyte. The depending upon the microscopic staining, whether the granules are present or whether granules are absent, depending upon that, the WBC is again further divided into granulocyte and agranulocyte. After staining, if you see examine the WBC, if granules are present, that type of WBC is called as the granulocyte. If granules are absent, that type of the WBC cells are called as the agranulocyte. The granulocyte again further divided into the neutrophils, basophils and eosinophils. And agranulocytes are further divided into monocytes and lymphocytes. This is the classification of the four elements. Now the last point, that is the multiple choice questions. Here I have tried to explain, put out some MCQs. First question is the branch of science concerned with the study of blood forming tissues and disorders associated with them is called as, first option is the hematopoiesis, second option is the hematology, third option is the osteology, and fourth option is the erythropoiesis. Think over it, take a pause and then try to solve this questions. And the answer of this question is the hematology. Second question, blood is whether epithelial tissue, muscular tissue, liquid connective tissue, cardiac tissue. Obviously it is a fluid, that's why it is a liquid connective tissue. Third question is the temperature of blood is 38 degrees Celsius or 36 degrees Celsius or 37 degrees Celsius or 39 degrees Celsius. The answer is 38 degrees Celsius, that is 100.4 Fahrenheit. Next, the average volume of blood in case of male and female is respectively. Options are 5 to 6 and 7 to 8 liter, that is 5 to 6 in male or 7 to 8 liters in female. Or second option, 3 to 4 liters in male and 4 to 5 liters in female. Third option is the 4 to 5 liters in male or 5 to 6 liter in female. And last option, that is the 5 to 6 liter in male or 4 to 5 liters in female. The answer is 5 to 6 liter in male and 4 to 5 liters in female. Last question, that is the following component of blood plays a major role in phagocytosis. One is the option is RBC, WBC, platelet and blood proteins. And your answer is WBC. So these are some references which I took the content from the Principles of Anatomy and Physiology by Gerard, Tortora and Brand Derrickson, 13th edition, and the textbook of Medical Physiology by Guyton and Hall, 11th. Thank you.